What's going on, guys? We are back with another video. This one, we want to talk about the dream matchups that everyone wants to see, either that being Swiss or the bracket. Probably bracket is preferred for most of these matches, just to get to that best 7, juicy matchups. But there's a lot of matchups I think everyone's been waiting to watch in this long off season. And obviously, these will all be international matchups that we haven't seen, right? To see how it all kind of plays out. So, on that, let's go to the PowerPoint and let's take a look at what my top 6 or so matchups are. Obviously, like, you're gonna have different ones, and if there's any that like you feel like are a good matchup that you want to see, maybe playstyle wise or something like that, like, throw them in the comments below. I would love to hear about them. But let's get into it. We're gonna type them out as we go. More effect, and because I didn't want to do a PowerPoint presentation because that's annoying. So we're just gonna do it this way. My first one, which is everyone's top one, I assume, is Carmine Corp versus G2. I think everyone wants to see this. Obviously, the number 1 seed in NA, the number 1 seed in Europe. See how it pans out. See where G2 is compared to a K Corp. You could also put maybe a gen.g here as well. Like, there's probably plenty of people that yell at me that put in gen.g with G2, but honestly, I think they're about equal. So, either one of those matchups, right? Everyone wants to know where is NA compared to EU with their 2 super teams, right? So I think that would be a great matchup. You could honestly, like, I just want to see any matchups really with G2 and gen.g versus literally anyone in Europe is going to be very interesting to see exactly where they're at. But, we're going to pick specific ones here. So I think that one obviously would be a fun one in the bracket stage, preferably. Next up, we'll have a gen.g one here then instead. We'll do gen.g versus Vitality. I think this one would be fun because gen.g found their form at the end. Vitality's been not finding their form yet, right? That they're obviously land beasts, or they were last year. Will that continue? Will Vitality return to greatness? Can gen.g topple down Vitality? Like, we'll see if gen.g can continue, like, their streak of very good LAN finishes compared to what they do online, really. Like, gen.g last season in spring, not a great team. And then they come out and get the top placement in North America in spring and Worlds, right? Now bringing in First Killer, who got the top placement in winter with a brand new team. Like, these guys are LAN players. So it's going to be interesting to see where these teams lie. Like, this could be a quarterfinal matchup. I could really see this one happening to see who makes it into the top 4, which would be awesome. But that matchup, I'm really interested to watch. Next up is probably one of the most hyped matchups, probably. Like, this one probably is number 2, honestly, outside of K-Corp versus G2. But this is Furia versus Falcons. Like, obviously, everyone... Like, a lot of the conversation is always around North America versus Europe, but I think Sam versus MENA is going to be so much fun. Just to see exactly where they're at. Obviously, Falcons are that top dog in MENA, and Furia, like, is the top dog in Sam. Maybe Falcons are more dominant in MENA than Furia was in Sam, but Furia found that form in Qualifier 2 and 3. So I feel like they're on par with their dominance, or at least close enough. So then it really just comes down to which of these teams, which team consolidated their talent better, or just which region is more talented. So you could consolidate that talent into a team of 3. So that matchup, I think everyone wants to see. Again, dream quarterfinal matchup. Absolute dream. Or even a top 4 matchup. I don't care. But it seems likely that, like, that could be a quarterfinal matchup. And that would be a dream. For sure. Now, this matchup next, I think, would probably come in Swiss. But I'm going to keep on that train of I'm just really interested in this MENA versus Sam. I really want to see how this plays out. So I want to see both matchups here. Rule 1, I just wrote rule. Rule 1 versus Complexity. Another MENA versus Sam matchup. I feel like Rule 1, I think I'm probably going to be more down on them than most people. So I would probably pick Complexity here. But again, it's just like, I just want to know where this depth is. Like, does Sam have more depth? Like, I could easily see Fury taking down Falcons, Complexity taking down Rule 1. Or, I'm sorry, Falcons taking down Furia, but Complexity taking down Rule 1. So then we have like a 1 for Mina, a 2-3 for Sam, and then a 4 for Mina there to like kind of equalize it out. But another matchup that I think would probably fall more into like a 2-2 round, which would be really fun in Swiss, because I do think these teams are just a little bit under that mark for both being in top 8. But I think that matchup would be a ton of fun to see how it plays out now after a long off season. Next up, and this one's going to be a little bit not an actual matchup, but another matchup I want to see in the 2-2 round is Power in the 2-2 round. Power versus here. Let's do Power versus the RL Gods. Can they get a top 8 finish? I hope they make at least the 2-2 round and see if they at least get that shot. Like, OC tends to just barely fall short. They tend to get some weird win or like a nice bracket run to put them in a spot to make top 8, and then they kind of just falter. So Power versus the Rocket League Gods. Can OC get a top 8 again? Can they like come back into that conversation? Because right now, like, it's NA versus Europe for top 2 regions, and like there's a possible argument that NA falls down into that 3rd and 4th place region argument as well. It just depends on how these teams do. But there is no argument of like the next teams up or the next regions up are MENA and Sam, right? And OC is not even in that conversation. Like, OC is trending closer towards the conversation of APAC and SSA than they are trending towards the MENA and Sam right now. Obviously, I hope all that changes. Honestly, I hope APAC and SSA show up too, because obviously we want more competition, right? So, I just want to see Power in that 2-2 round. Love to see him clutch it up and get a big win versus like a favorite. Would be a lot of fun. So we'll see if that actually happens. Next up is the bottom of the barrel. I want to kind of talk about Pioneers versus Elevate versus Limitless. I'm going to add them in here too. Just any of these three. I think these matchups are always interesting just to see where these teams are. I think pretty much everyone has these three as their bottom 3 in some order. Some people have Elevate above Pioneers. Most people have Limitless last, but I still think they have a puncher's shot. I think that's the term, boxer shot. I'm not sure. Of just getting that one haymaker on one of these teams and taking them down a notch. So, I think those matchups will be a lot of fun. Sure, it's not going to be the best Rocket League probably, but I think they are incredibly interested in the 0-2 rounds, the 1-2 rounds. I just hope they all kind of get to play each other, which obviously won't happen where every single one of them plays each other, because very likely I don't see them taking a match against any of the other teams, but it's possible. Maybe if Power underperforms or a team implodes while at LAN with just bad vibes, that happens from time to time. So I would love to see how those guys perform. I expect them to be at the bottom, but I would like to see how they match up against one another. But those are like my dream matchups. Obviously, there's a lot more matchups in there where like it's just gonna be fun. Those first few days of Swiss of just trying to see all these matchups, see the regional records. It is always a fun stat of like which region is doing better than which, and maybe Sam's doing better versus Europe, but they're doing worse against NA and things like that. It is always fun. So see how it all plays out. Let me know what your dream matchups are going into this Copenhagen LAN. It's gonna be fun. It begins on Thursday. I'm not sure when I'm publishing this video, but it begins on Thursday. All I know is that is soon, whenever this video goes live. So I'm very excited. Thank you guys all for tuning in. We'll see you in Copenhagen. Adios.